Well, we are 3 months into the Nintendo Switch 2's life cycle, and we finally have a game that makes the system worth it, and it's a Switch 1 game. I really enjoyed Kirby and the Forgotten World, and when I saw that it was one of the games getting a Switch 2 port and a little expansion, I was pretty excited. So, is this game actually worth it? Should you buy a Switch 2 just to play Kirby in 60 FPS? Let's talk about it. Alright, normally I say something clever here, but the only thing I can think of is some joke about like Kirby eating you and then like the video, please subscribe. So I loved Kirby and the Forgotten World. I think it's a really fun little game, and I never really cared too much about the performance of it. It never bothered me, really. Yes, it was 30 frames a second. Sure, there was the occasional slowdown. I guess I just have a high tolerance for that. I never really thought it was too big of a deal. That said, having played it now in 60 frames a second, it feels like a different game. It's amazing what a little performance boost can do to rejuvenate and totally almost reinterpret a game that you feel like you've already played to death. The performance upgrades alone are worth it. If you already own the game on Switch, it's worth the $20 just to go play through the game. And I'm very tempted, I haven't done this yet, but I'm very tempted to really do that. Go through and play through the original game again with the full 60 frames a second. Because playing through these expansion levels was just so much fun. It felt like an entirely new and different game. Which it's not. You're playing through essentially levels from the base game that they've done up in this star-crossed world theme, which is essentially just a lot of the little blue star crystal pieces all over the map. Though the levels themselves do feel different. I know they are all based on the original levels from the game, but either I just haven't played the game in a while, or they did just make new levels. So you always start maybe in the familiar entry beginning areas, but then they usually will take you off into totally new levels. So to me, it never felt like I was just replaying old levels with a new coat of paint. Every level in this expansion feels like a new level, and the levels are fantastic. They have essentially the same structure as the Forgotten Land levels. Now you're collecting star piece things instead of the Waddle Dees or whatever you were saving in the first game. It is just more Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but that is not a bad thing. On top of that, there are 3 new big mouth things that you can eat. Essentially a giant spring, a cog wheel that you can use to jam into the walls, which is pretty fun, and then a signboard, which they use for these like slalom event type things. I think they're all pretty fun. I really enjoyed the spring one especially, and it was cool to get some of the levels to be a little more vertical with the cog wheel, since it does let you ride on the walls, go up and down. So I feel like it allowed the level designers a little more freedom to create some pretty unique levels, or at least feeling levels, as they were going through the game. The star-crossed world portion of it too also helped, because essentially as you go, you'll hit this star crystal thing and it will just make more levels. Pretty much all the levels you are just kind of on these star paths, so they can make it go wherever they wanted, however they wanted, and I think that was a positive as far as the overall level design. Really, the only kind of complaint I have about the expansion is that it's pretty short. There's only, I think, 12 levels added, but each of those levels did feel a little longer than the average Forgotten World level. So you're really getting like 2 or 3 areas worth of levels, and because they spread out the levels that you get across all of the subworlds of Forgotten Land, each does have its own theming, so you do get to visit all of the previous areas of the base game. So even though you're able to get through it relatively quickly, I'm not sure how much more they could have added without this really turning into its own game at that point. Since I think you're pretty much getting about a third of the base Kirby game in levels here, I do wish there was a little more variety in the bosses, unfortunately, and the enemies. Pretty much every enemy and boss is just enemies and bosses from the base game with some star crystals attached to them, but it never felt like it really changed up how they played or how you combated them. I didn't really notice anything special. Even the final boss fight felt like the final boss fight of the base game too. I wish they had done a little more effort in adding some new, maybe unique enemies, or drastically changing the movesets of the existing enemies when they were in this star-crossed form. Still, between the performance improvements and the new content, if you enjoyed Kirby, this is a must-buy. If you've never played Kirby in the Forgotten Land, $80 feels a little steep, so I'm not going to tell you to buy it, but I will say this is a fantastic 3D platformer. If you are a fan of 3D platformers and you have a Switch 2 and you somehow have never played Kirby, I would definitely recommend it. It is one of the better ones. All the different abilities that you can use as Kirby, all the different unlocks to those, you can level those abilities up, they get stronger, they have maybe different characteristics. There's a lot here if you include the base game, and it's definitely a must play for any fan of the genre. And honestly, it is so far the Switch 2 game I have enjoyed the most. Sorry, Donkey Kong. What do you think? Is Kirby in the Forgotten Land plus Star-Crossed World your favorite Switch 2 game? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel or even becoming a member. Much like Kirby, I am trying to suck up everybody's wallets into my own. So please become a member, and I will see you all with the next video.